It's 5:30. Welcome to the joint budget meeting with the budget committee and the select board. This is Wednesday. No, it's not Wednesday yet. It is Monday, March 16th, 2026, and we are here meeting in the meeting room for the Bethel Town Hall. And there's quorum. There's a quorum for the budget committee.
Great, 7 out of 9.
All right. And we have a quorum for the select board. So we're ready to go, and I'll turn it over to Shannon.
Okay. So you have your budget binders in front of you. They're all complete. Jim did call. He's going to be late. He had to go to Scarborough. He's coming. Okay. I've given you a copy of the budget calendar in front of you. I'll use that as my agenda tonight. If you look at 316, where we are right now, these are the budgets that we will review. Once we finish reviewing them, we'll go back to the local agency requests. We didn't finish that one last week. And then if time allows, we will also do the fire department. So what I'd like to request is doing the same thing we did last year. We voted on all of the budgets at the very last meeting. That way, if we have, if you have questions or you need additional information, then I can get that for you, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting. That would be my preferred way to do it. So the first budget we have to go over tonight is the municipal facilities, which is the town office building, the town garage, the ambulance building, and the fire station. So you can find those four budgets under the municipal and grounds, under the facilities and grounds tab in your binder.
Facilities?
So the first one listed is for the town office. I'll go through that. The office cleaning service, $170 a week, $8,840. Are you all set?
I'm not finding that.
For general assistance.
Yes, it's right before general assistance.
It's kind of like the next level. Yeah.
Okay. So that first line item is staying the same as current year, $11,400. The next line is maintenance and repair. Covers the annual furnace service, fire extinguisher inspections, furnace parts and labor, and that will stay the same at $5,000. The next line is sanitation services. That's to, we share the Casella dumpster out back with Northeast Bank, and that's our share, $15 a month for the pickup. That stays the same at $180. The supplies line stays the same at $800. That covers the trash bags, paper towels, keys, bathroom supplies, ice melt, anything to do with this building. The next line is for the heating fuel at the former citizen space. Last year, we weren't quite certain what we would be paying for fuel oil there because it was the first time. So our tracking shows that we will use about 600 gallons, and that would be $1,800, and that's factored at $3 a gallon for what we get. It's up or down a little depending because they add rack price onto that as well. Heating pellets. We've estimated this year that we will use 15,000. We've cut that in half because our primary source of heat going forward very shortly is going to be the mini splits, which are the heat pumps for the heating and the cooling in this building. We received a grant from Efficiency Maine to help with paying for that. And part of the agreement was that the heat pumps would be the primary source of heat. So we're cutting the cost of the pellets in half for that. The next line item is the equipment purchases. That covers any small equipment purchase here in the town office that any of the staff need, file cabinets, adding machines, anything like that. We're leaving that at $1,500. The next line is water for the building. That will stay the same at $460. The sewer for the building, $840, will stay the same. The electric, we also had, this past year, we had Field Electric came in and they changed all of our meters around for new ones. Ours were all corroded, so they all had to be replaced. And the town office is on one meter, and the citizen is on the second meter. And so we have two electric meters. One is where the citizen used to be, that is estimated at $720, and the account for the building here is $3,200, which based on the tracking that we've had since we had that done, there's a decrease in that. So the total budget for the facilities building of this town office building has decreased from $35,965 to $29,118. That's a $6,848 or 19% decrease. Does anyone have any questions on that?
You decreased the amount of heating pellets for this building, you said, by half, because you're having heat pumps in there. Did you up the electricity
Yes.
account?
Yes.
Looks to me like you cut it in half, or almost. You went down 29% from 4,500 to 3,200. So it doesn't look to me like you have accounted for the increase in electricity it's going to cost to run that heat pump.
I actually did, but it probably didn't say, but I did do that, so I'll give you an adjusted sheet.
Yeah, because I
No.
just had one put in and it set up,
No, we had a percentage that we had to increase that
Yeah.
to, so.
especially when it goes down
I
to
think that's
20.
why I hesitated when I looked at that, because I did have that in there,
So we're going to have a revised figure on that?
yes.
Sharon, I have a question on the fuel cost, the $3 a gallon.
Yes.
I thought we were a lot less than that before.
The number 2 fuel, no. It's the propane,
Oh, okay.
which we have the contract for 203.
Right, okay.
And I'm not accounting for the increase that it has been jumping right now,
Yeah.
hoping that that will all be gone. I've talked to a few other managers and, they're all thinking the same thing.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I will have the adjusted line for this for the electric.
Does the estimate for heating for the citizen's office, does that account for heating it to a level where that space could be used, or is
No.
that just?
No, just what we have
Based on it.
putting in
Okay.
it for right now. Fire station. Mike is here. Mike and I reviewed the budget. I have it, what we've looked at, and Mike can answer any questions that you have on it. So the maintenance and repair, he's asked for it to increase from 75 to 12,500. That does cover the fire alarm system test, the inspection, the annual boiler service maintenance, 5-year flow test, sprinkler inspection, annual fire extinguisher checks, and the increase in maintenance and repair. The supplies stays the same at 500. Then we have the heating fuel. We do the tracking here on that, and the average of 3,500 gallons. We've decreased that a little bit to 10,500. The water, according to quarterly averages now, the sewer stays the same. The electric, down just a tad, and the total is $29,090 for a 5.9% increase. Any questions?
Why the increase in the maintenance?
Yeah,
Because our new fire station is 23 years old.
okay, so my house is 30
You gotta
years
keep,
old.
you gotta keep up with it.
So this is annual maintenance needed on an annual basis. This doesn't include major projects, but it does include annual repair and maintenance.
Well,
Of
what are you,
things that-
what are you doing for the extra increase? I guess it's the pricing.
Well, there's always maintenance issues to do, the alarm system inspection and stuff. Everyone else is going up on all their rates, so we gotta account for that. Just everything in general is going up, but we rode pretty easy for years at $5,000 worth of maintenance, but like I say, our new building is not new anymore. And
We just, it just went up 60%, that's just quite a lot in 1 year, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
So you think,
60% on $5,000.
you think all those services will be an increase of $5,000?
Well, that and maintenance in general stuff,
Yeah.
yes.
And you're gonna have just a miscellaneous maintenance in addition to this?
Yes.
Okay, that would be,
Like, we have the garage doors maintained and.
yeah, yeah, that, yeah.
just-
And if parts are needed, then, you know, we have to have additional for parts, and like when the furnace is cleaned, if there are more parts that need to be replaced, that accounts. That's what annual maintenance is for things like that.
Thanks.
Page 2 is the town garage, and Scott is here. That has a decrease of $2,900. The budget increased for the maintenance and repair current year because of the doors that were required that he had to replace. However, he still does need to replace 2 man doors in the shop. But even with that, it has decreased from 10,000 to 7,600. The supplies stay the same. There's a $500 decrease in the fuel oil, and it's a 1,000-gallon above ground propane tank, and we do pay $203 for the contract right now, and it's going to remain $203 for the coming year. We've already received that. And we do have a new furnace now in the office that was replaced this year, that was budgeted in current year, and there's radiant heaters in the bay. The water stays the same, the electric stays the same, and there's a decrease from 22,300 to 19,400. And Scott is here if you have any questions.
That 203 a gallon, is that a good figure?
That's propane, yes.
Yeah. I'm not too bad for that.
So that's the price currently. We have a contract with Community Energy, and they've agreed to continue with that contract this next fiscal year. I think you might remember the first year I was here, we were paying $5.99. We had 3 different propane vendors, and we actually moved all of their tanks and went out to bid and
It's a good price.
got a good
The more you buy,
price.
the cheaper it is.
Yes, it is. This is
For
based,
propane, doesn't
this
make
is
sense to
based
me.
on 7,800 gallons of propane, so that was good. That's what our average is for all departments.
Sharon, for that energy audit that we did of the public works building, it did like list some things that could be done to improve, like there's no insulation in the walls, and like, should we keep it at 10,000 so we could do some of those projects so that we don't lose as much heat?
Well, we didn't factor any of that, doing any of that this year. It's something that can be looked at, yes.
Okay.
Ambulance building, Dave is here. Maintenance, contracted services stay at 100, that is for the annual land lease for the generator. The maintenance and repair stays at 75, the sanitation services, the supplies will increase by about 300. Those are additional supplies that are needed for the ambulance. The heating, we have reduced that by $2,000. The office equipment, they do need 4 5-drawer file cabinets. These are security file cabinets, and they're $500 each. Then we have the water, just a few dollars off. With that, the estimated sewer is increased a little. The CMP average monthly bill is $260, so that goes down a little bit. So overall, it's an $890 decrease from current year. Dave can answer any questions if you have any.
We're paying the same rate in all places for electricity?
Yes, we are. All of our electric is with CMP, so they all have the same rates. Based on how much they use, of course, it will be up or down.
Is it, for all these with the heating, it seems like the heating oil costs are going down significantly, which, I don't know, that kind of worries me, because I feel like it's gonna be higher, or is there data that supports that we didn't spend as much?
We're budgeting at $3 a gallon, and right now, we just started paying, not quite 3, but prior to this whole thing just happening with Iran, we were averaging around $2.50 a gallon.
So were we budgeting too much in the past then?
No, I don't think so. Well, a few years ago, I would say yes.
But like last year for, so the number for the heating oil, that number 4,500 is for heating oil and propane?
Yes,
So last year it was 4,500
yes.
and we didn't spend close to that amount?
No, we won't spend close to that amount. That's correct.
Okay, that's what I just wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what, you kind of said it for me. I don't see any actual numbers, so I'm kind of assuming if the budget goes down, that means we haven't spent as much in the budget last year. And if the budget goes up, that's obvious, we think we're gonna be spending more. Is that how that correlates?
Well, basically what we do is we look at a 3-year average and try to stay the same every year. Obviously, I think this year, everybody used a lot more because of it being such a cold winter.
Right.
But I've never budgeted according to the winter, whether it was cold or warm, because you have to do an average of what it is. So I think that's just trying to establish how many gallons you're actually using and doing an average of that.
I think I should have looked at our last year's budget, but I think in the past you had like, did you used to have the 2 years prior and then the actual used for 1 whole year? I know you can't give us the actuals for 25, 26, because I always get this, get off in my head, right, because we haven't finished that budget.
So we haven't finished fiscal year 25, 26 because
Right,
this
so
is
we
the
don't, we
budget year.
can't have
we're
the
in.
actual column, but could we have the actual column for 24, 25? So that we know how.
Well, I think if you look at
Yeah,
last year's
just-
budget, you
yeah, I'll
can
just-
see
yeah,
that, but to
yeah,
add it back
yeah, right.
in here,
Right,
yeah.
okay. So we have both budgets.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just assuming whenever I see the negative, it's hard to on maintenance and fuel, but whenever there's a negative, I'm just assuming that we didn't spend as much.
As we But the year also isn't over yet, so.
Aren't we missing a column?
Yeah,
Because a column that normally is what we've spent to date.
So right now, these are based on 6 months, and
What's based on 6 months?
the usage. No,
No, that's not what I'm getting at, Sharon. We had, no, I was thinking in the past, we had what was budgeted, what's requested, and what was spent to date. It was just a situation where you could kind of compare to see what the year was and what the increase or decrease was.
So putting,
It's been that way in the past quite a
putting a
while.
column in that shows expenditures from July to December is not accurately portrayed, because in some budgets, your monies are spent in different quarters, or the money in a department is spent all up front or all at the end. And when you list what's spent year to date, then you have questions that come up as to, well, we have over half of the budget left, why are we budgeting that? And it's because that particular budget's not gonna use the rest of their budget until the fourth quarter of this year. Recreation is a prime example of that. Recreation uses a majority of their budget during the fourth quarter because it is the baseball season, so that's when you see all of the baseball expenses for the summer programs. Those are all in the fourth quarter of the year, so you're not gonna see those right now. And if you looked at the baseball budget, the recreation budget, you'd see that not even half of the budgets have been used because those expenses don't get used until then. So that doesn't give a fair example. Towards the end of doing this, then what I do is I print out what we're looking at during that fourth quarter in expenditures. And then the final budget that I do will show expenses, actual expenses. So that's why I don't show that.
Well, I'm just used to the other way, that's all. We always had a column that was up to paid to date. And yes, the questions, like you're saying, were asked, but they were easily explained. It was just something that I've got used to over the years of looking at the budget, and it's just not there, so just thought I'd bring it up.
So what I can do is I can print out a report that gives those figures that you can have that.
Well, no, it may be that nobody else cares, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
trying to say is maybe if we could have two more columns. One would be the 24-25 budget, and then the actual used in 24-25, just so we have one full year of data.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
So printing two more columns is not efficient for me. What we can do is we can print the report in Trio that shows actual expenditures for fiscal year 25 is what you're talking about, and
Just so
26.
that you had a whole
And
year.
26. You know the expense report I gave the select board at the last meeting?
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And it shows expense to date,
Okay.
and the previous year can be printed so that it shows the actual expenditures. Rather than having to type it all in here, you actually get the report from our software program, and it prints all that information. So I can have that for you.
Okay, well, you gave it to us, so I could, but
Well,
that's
the
year-to-date.
budget
Yeah,
committee
yeah,
has
yeah.
it, so,
Yeah.
so we can print that.
Yeah, and the to-date one would be good too.
Yes, I said the
Yeah,
fiscal
yeah.
year 25 and the 26 to date.
Yeah.
Would it be in a, sorry, because I haven't looked at it, but would it be in a different order than this, or would it kind of?
It's-
Would it be easy to find quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's how we print it, that's how we printed
Okay.
yours, is by department, and it just lists it right now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions on these 4 departments? Or buildings, I should say, facilities.
I have a quick one, hopefully quick.
Okay,
Is that true that there used to be actuals? A column for actuals?
there may have been, I don't list it,
Okay.
but it's a lot more accurate if you put, I'll give you an example. If I printed that as of the end of February, and you wanna know what the actual, then I'm going to type every one of those actuals in these lines here. So if I print the report the day of the meeting, then I can have it print the actual report that shows actuals to date as of today.
Yep.
That number is going to change every week because accounts payables are done every week.
No, I understand that. I think what I'm hearing is that maybe there's something where, like Sarah above said, like 24, 25 data, where we could just see paints a picture of projections, basically, where we can see what was budgeted for 24, 25 and see where we landed, so that when we look at this year going into next year, we can have a bit of a comparison saying, oh, we maybe flubbed it that year, so.
What the report shows is the budgeted amount, the expenditure, what was left over, and the actual as of the end of that fiscal year.
Yeah,
Okay,
just sounds interesting. I'd be interested in seeing it too.
okay. The next section would be Angevine Park, and that tab is right before. It's right on your left-hand side as you're flipping. Everybody have it? So Scott is in charge of the Angevine Park, and I sit with Scott and we go over all of the expenses for that department. The top line includes the park monitor. This is a 13-week position from Memorial Day to Labor Day. The position pays $53.50 a day. It's 91 days, and it's a total of $4,868.50 if all days are, if there is someone there on all days. The gates open at 8, they close at 8 p.m. The person doing that job is responsible for cleaning the bathhouse, the trash cleanup, monitors the pond, and Scott oversees and checks in with this person on a daily to weekly basis. The second line is for the septage disposal. There are 2 1,000-gallon tanks, Doyen's septage disposal, and that is $200. Water testing, the wastewater treatment plant does test the water and we pay for the testing supplies. That stays at $400. The next section is the contracted services. We are not putting an amount in the budget for that this year. That is to vacuum the debris and clean the bottom of the pond, the annual maintenance to the vanes, excuse me, and the filters and the aerator pump. We have a capital account balance of $5,000 for pond services that was approved previously for cleaning the pond. We can use the funds in the capital account instead of raising additional funds for this line. So any services that need to be done to the pond that come under this category, we will use from the capital account this year. Maintenance and repair, maintenance is needed to open and close the bathhouse for the season. Repairs for signs, windows, bathhouse, picnic tables. We are going to reduce this line by $1,000, and we're going to use the remainder that needs to be used for any of these categories in the capital account line 512. And we have a balance of $3,237.12 in that account. The sanitation services will go up a little. That is for the 4-yard dumpster for Casella. It's emptied twice a month. It's $155 a month. Supplies covers all the cleaning supplies, toilet paper, everything that is needed for the park. That stays the same at $250. The water covers the backflow test at $80. Excuse me, and $116.42 a quarter. The utilities and electric down $100. The electric for the light and the aerator in the pond, 12-month bill. Building bathhouse seasonal, the average monthly is $138. Total is $9,539, which is down from $15,007 for this year, basically because we're not going to budget for the cleaning of the pond. This past season, Scott's crew, when the water drained down, they were able to go in and clean the pond. He hasn't been able to find a company that does that actual work, so they were able to do it when the water was all drained. Any questions that you might have?
What was the park winner paid last year?
So it was $51 and something. That all positions had a 3% increase to their wage this year, plus a 45-cent adjustment that the state workers received, not the state workers, the state increased the minimum wage for everybody by 45 cents. So that 45 cents was adjusted in hourly wages this year. Because what's happening is the minimum wage keeps increasing and the wages keep closing for the higher paid personnel to where the minimum wage people are. So it was a 3% plus 45-cent adjustment on all of the wages.
So that shows an increase of 11.5%.
Yeah.
The 3% plus the 45 cents an hour. That's good.
Yes.
The donation for Angel Vine Park, Scott, do you remember what that was all about?
The multiple donations when they built the facility. Donations for digging the pond, donations towards the bathhouse. One of the fixtures were donated, the flooring was donated,
So this is going back years.
yes.
And we didn't have it captured before until this year.
Correct. A few years ago, we had to put new doors on. Amy found that money and we ended up having that done. We had talked then, we were supposed to have some handicap ramps put in. We were gonna use that, but then it got away from us again.
So
We
that
found the
money's,
money again.
that money's been just sitting and it hasn't been used, so money was donated for the repairs of that. So that's why we're going to use it. But
Yeah, that was part of the monies that showed in our carry forward, that we weren't sure what it
Yes.
was. That was coming to light this year, so, thank
I
you.
remember the $5,000, I
Yeah.
just didn't remember the 3,000.
Yeah, that we
That-
wanted to
Yes,
reclassify.
that was two different ones.
Yeah, those were two
Those are two
separate
different
items.
ones, yeah.
The $5,000 was actually set aside to clean the pond itself.
Scuba
The
diving.
scuba diver that was
Yeah.
supposed to come and didn't come during
Yeah.
COVID and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't seem to find anybody to, we've had some guys come and try it, but never come back.
Understand, thank you.
So now that $5,000, you did the work yourselves, and that $5,000 is now
It's still there in capital, and the reason that it was approved to be used was to clean the pond. So we're going to start using that money when we need to clean the pond.
So we just need to reclassify it from capital to operating.
Okay. So.
Well, we actually don't need to do that. We just need to take the expense from the capital line.
You can take it from the capital, yeah, if we don't. yeah.
Okay, and that's why it's not showing up in the 26-27 budget, because when we do clean the pond,
It
that
will just-
expense will
it'll
come.
come- It'll come out of the capital account
Use it up there first.
to get rid of that.
Yeah.
If it was in the capital already, why is it being listed as budget?
It's not being listed as budget. We're gonna use the capital money as it was appropriated for, because it's been just sitting there. So that's why we don't need to budget it in here. I don't know why that one year it was budgeted to be put in capital, and because there's always been 5,000 here in the operating budget since I've been here. And then we found the 5,000 that was sitting in there from capital, so one year, it was budgeted in the capital account.
But we do normally spend about $5,000 a year on contracted services for the fund.
Well, if that's what it would probably cost, Scott may have paid that the last time they were able to find someone, so that may be why this was put in here as 5,000. I don't know, that was before me. But there's no point in raising money when we have the money, so.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that for the past 3 years, he hasn't been able to find a company that actually does this work.
And you took it out, we used the normal operating money
Yes.
last year, when we spent, what, couple grand, I think, last year doing, with the weather the way it was, water level was low, we rented a pump and
So
pumped it the rest of the way out, did it mechanically ourselves.
Sorry, so the $5,000 in the 25-26 column is money that we budgeted for this year, right? That we
Yes.
And that will be used.
Some
by
of
the
it
end of-
has been used
Okay,
when Scott's
When you
crew
did
went
that,
in this
yeah.
year. He already went in
okay,
and did this past season.
okay,
So some of it has been used.
okay.
And if any more of it is needed before the end of June, it will come out of that 5,000. And you'll see that when I give you the printout of the software report, for the balances. Other questions on this?
I just don't remember seeing it in CIP.
So what the,
Double check.
the 5,000,
Yeah, which I'm not seeing in,
you're not gonna see it on that sheet you're looking at.
It was
If you look-
it was a carry forward, Jim.
okay.
It was sometime between 2019 and 2022. It was 5,000 put in the capital at that
Yeah.
point, and it wasn't used.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so it just kept getting carried forward each year.
So the list for the others, for others, the list doesn't actually show what's in capital for money, it shows what's expected or proposed to spend in capital.
I have a list that shows the amount that's in every capital account that we have. That list was put together by the new auditors when they came here, and it carries everything right across, so I can give you a copy of that. And that's where it has the pond money, and it has the balance of the 32,3312. Everything is right on that.
All right, that makes sense.
Okay. The next account is the Fountain Park and Cemeteries, and you can find that under the listing that says Davis Park, which is the next tab. So again, Scott maintains this account balance, and he takes care of Davis Park, the pathway, and the common, and the cemeteries. So the first line item is for Davis Park Pathway Complex. This is for one regular and one handicap portable toilet at the playground that is cleaned weekly. That is $3,850. A portable at the basketball court for 7 months for $1,250. Weekly trash pickup at the basketball court for $100 a week. And poison ivy controls for $1,050. We had quite a problem this past year with the poison ivy, and that was actually for the $775. The total of the $150 for the basketball court for the trash pickup is $1,050. And then miscellaneous repairs that may come up due to the increases in everything I just stated. That's going to increase by $1,000. Cemetery restoration. This is seasonal minor maintenance that's needed in the cemeteries. So any minor repairs come out of this account. We do have a capital account that covers annual expenses to actually repair stones, clean stones, and you'll see that when we do the capital budget. Fountain maintenance covers the antifreeze for winterization, new fittings, bleach for cleaning, miscellaneous maintenance. We guess we missed that one, Scott.
Sorry, which one?
The fountain maintenance.
It's on mine, but,
We'll
no,
look
it's
at-
not, I'm sorry.
The next one is the town common maintenance. That's the gazebo, the bell tower, miscellaneous seasonal maintenance. And I do have to widen that column.
If we left out the same.
That increased by $500. The next one is the supplies account, increasing by 2. This covers buying all the doggy bags for the dispensers so people can have the doggy bags when they take their dogs walking or anything walking. $1,000 for the garden club to plant and water flowers at 2 islands and the town office and the island by Davis Park. That may be done by someone other than the garden club this year, we're not sure yet, but it's to get those plants planted, and we pay for the cost of the plants. Flags, American flags for the streets. This year we had a grant that allowed for a 50% match with the Gale and Cole Family Foundation grant. They paid for half of the cost of they will pay for half of the cost of the flags, and we pay for the other cost. That was $1,440, so we're budgeting our share of the grant that we received. This was the first year that they opened that grant up. They used to do it every year, and so we took advantage, we applied for it, and we received it. And it will give us more flags than we usually do buy, allowing us to be able to put more flags up, which we've had a request to do that as well, in some extended areas. The veterans' flags and the markers for Memorial Day, that is the state law that towns pay for the flags and the markers that go on the veterans' grave. The American Legion has increased their request this year from 1,400 to 1,500. The utilities are for the gazebo, the Main Street clock, and the common. That increases about $175 from current year. The Veterans Park electricity is going to stay the same. We have a $2,200 increase in that department. Any questions?
I have one on the cemetery, the mowing, how was that done?
Scott?
The mowing for the cemeteries, do you,
That's in the public
That's-
works account,
oh, that is in the other one, okay.
yeah.
So we'll see that when we do public works.
Is there a reason, first question, is there a reason when everything else has either stayed the same or gone down in electricity, why those three have gone up that much?
Well, I would say that depends on the usage.
Well, I can't see those three things that are fixed.
Scott, do you want to talk about, when those are on?
Well, I imagine the gazebo, if we have more events
No,
over the summer, that's probably getting more use. But,
Yeah,
I don't know.
last year's calendar year, 2025, the clock itself used $630. The common, $931.99. The gazebo, $599. And then the Veterans Park was $606.91. Last calendar year, that was the actual totals for those items.
And that was FY '25.
Calendar.
Oh, calendar,
Calendar
you're
year
saying, so
25.
that would have been in '25.
Yeah, half and half.
Yeah.
To give trying to get an estimate of what the off-seasons, you know,
Mhm.
winter time, what the difference is.
Okay.
So
Car-
maybe we didn't budget enough in the past, is that?
Well, last year was, $481.
The only thing I could see changing is be the gazebo, the clock would be the same all the time.
Did your CMP bill go down?
No, but everything's going down in the other places.
No, it's, estimating with the actuals, so.
Could you touch on the dumpsters?
Scott will explain that.
The fact that we're, and I think it's gonna be, if I remember right, bigger dumpster versus like the one at the ambulance garage size versus the one at.
Well, the one at the ambulance guards is like curbside pickup, it's just a couple of cans and whatever they.
Okay,
The dumpster, it all varies on what size, price varies on size. It's a 2-yard dumpster, it's, X amount of dollars emptied a week.
right.
Price varies if you just empty it every other week. I think the one at the basketball court is a 2-yard can emptied every other week. Or is it every week?
Says week. Okay.
So if they're, I do know if they're emptied every week, the cost is more than if they're emptied every other week.
Okay.
And also the size
Yeah.
depends
At
on
the size.
the cost.
Did we need to add in the $1,000 for the winterization of the fountain?
Yes, I'll do that and give you an adjusted sheet next time.
I'm not seeing anything with the skate park. Did we do anything with the skate park?
That's not in this budget.
Okay.
The top line that has the regular maintenance and miscellaneous repairs, just quickly adding, and I'm probably way off, the amounts that are there are about $7,000, which leaves about $3,000 for miscellaneous repairs. Is that gonna give you enough flexibility? I mean, there's, for fixing any of the fencing and those repairs and stuff?
Yes, I figure, playground chips are $2,100.
And that pretty much eats up your,
Yeah, which leaves us $1,000 for miscellaneous stuff, the
okay.
planks on the boardwalk, or planks on the bridge, or
Picnic table, planks on the bridge, any of the fencing that's coming down
benching,
inside?
yeah, that
Okay,
type of.
anything on the snowmobile bridge?
Yeah, the
Anything
snowmobile
else
bridge,
on
yeah,
the bridge,
planks
yeah.
on that, boards
Yeah.
on the boardwalks.
Okay,
We don't replace them all every year, but I think we had to do 3 on the snowmobile bridge last year, maybe 4. A couple of boards on the boardwalks themselves, but,
As long as you think you have enough.
yeah.
So
The
I'll add
playground chips,
2,100 for the playground chips.
yeah, cause we're actually buying certified playground chips now for the playground. Instead of donated chips like we changed us a little bit there.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions? So the next budget is going to be general assistance. That is 2 tabs down from where we are right now. That is not going to increase, it'll stay the same at 4,000. The state reimburses the town 70% of the expenses paid for money we give out for assistance to individuals who qualify for general assistance. We have, over the past 3 years, maintained approximately 10 clients per year that come in and fill out applications for general assistance, which is a very low amount compared to what I'm used to seeing in other towns. So,
And that amount of money is enough to help those, even those 10 clients with their
yes,
needs?
yes. I mean, there's always been money left over in that,
Okay.
but if you should get hit with a lot more people, then, I mean, it was 4,000 when I came, and I just left it at 4,000 based on the history.
I don't even think we used 4,000.
No. We don't.
It'd been 3,000 for the longest time.
Any other questions on that? So on the local and agency request, which would be next, that's the next tab. So in today's mail, received a document request, and it's right under the budget. It's from the AFCI, the Age Friendly Community Initiative Group. You'll see that there's 4 pages, they're 2-sided. They submitted information asking to be considered for funding. Could not find an amount that they were asking for. 2 of us did look, and the only thing it shows is last year, as it does show here in the budget as well, they were given $1,200. So I just noted on the budget sheet, this is the budget you voted on last week. I noted in bold that we received a request in the mail today on 3/16, and I included that request in your budget. I didn't know what you wanted to do with that. If you want me to add it, then I will for consideration. And then for the agency's funding, which is at the bottom, this section does include copies of everything I gave you last week that you looked at, but we put, new copies in here so you'd have it in your binder. And none of the numbers changed, so I don't know if there's any questions that you have.
What was the cutoff for the requests?
I was just looking it up.
So, it was in January, however, they didn't send a request, so they didn't get a letter.
Okay. So they didn't know what the cutoff date was?
No,
But they gave last year.
yes, so, we never did adopt a policy that, to follow any particular date. I have no problem with them being added. I don't know what you wanna do with it, but, there's nothing that prevents us from adding them. They did send, very detailed information in their request. And I will say that the information they send is pretty detailed in what they use their money for, and I met with the gentleman last year, what's his name?
Charlie.
Charlie. And he gave me a verbal overview, so they really do a good job here, so.
I don't have a problem letting them, but to answer Pat's question, if they had gotten a letter, it would have said to submit the information before Friday, February 13th, 2026.
The letter went out in January, would go out in January, and
Yeah.
anyone that sent a request, anyone that has applied in the past has gotten a letter. And some of those repeat individuals that requested, they sent all the information per the letter that they got. And those that didn't, I sent them a letter, an email asking to submit their information, and they did.
So theoretically, since they got something they were in the budget last year, that they theoretically would have gotten a letter. Again, I have no problem adding it, it's up to the group, but that's what the letter says. That's what
But they did definitely get a letter, or we're not sure?
No, I didn't send them a letter.
But they,
We gave them money last year.
Yeah.
yeah.
They sent a letter last year, and they sent all their information last year, so when they sent the information that we got today, it included all of the information that the letter was requesting.
But they didn't get a letter ahead of time.
No.
No, they didn't get a letter ahead of time.
So maybe, yes, so maybe in the future, we just have it on the website, like any organization that's gonna make a request, they do it by a certain date, and maybe send letters. I think you have done that though in the past, is sending letters out to anybody who had applied the year before.
Do we know when in February they wrote this?
No, it was dated, it's
Just this February, and all
they
they
wrote it, well, they
was
said February 2026, but we got it today, which was the 16th. I have no idea of knowing that, I can just tell you what the date stamp on
I'm
the
guessing the
envelope
month.
said. So I can update the sheet, I can add the $1,200, and then you can take action on this if you decide that you want to vote on everything at the last meeting. And on the agencies, did anyone have any questions after reviewing any of the agencies since the last meeting? I know Faye, you said you wanted to review them.
I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see the Cancer Center of Western Maine. Oh, I found it. It was at the end.
Yeah.
That's why.
Last one,
I missed that one.
I mean, a lot of them are new this year, so how do we go about deciding?
So it looks like within a couple of years, we're gonna be right back up at 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
So the Androscoggin and well, we gave to them in the past, right? But under
Yes.
the name Androscoggin.
Well, not this current year of 2026. They did not make a request this year. They
Okay.
were in the process of changing over. But in fiscal year '25, they were given a donation, yes. And then in fiscal year '26 is when they changed over to their new name. And we did get the request in for 2212. And I believe that's in the same ballpark as what they used to ask. So I do have another town manager sending me a copy of a ordinance, not an ordinance, but a policy that they have, that they use on capping any agency request at $2,000. So if an agency sends in a request for $4,000, that agency, depending on what that agency is, will get $2,000, not $4,000. I do support that and have always supported that. That's my opinion, you can do what you want. Some other towns have a cap of the maximum amount of money they're going to donate to all agencies. And I can tell you, one town has a cap of $10,000. So any outside agency asking for money, that is capped at 10,000, period.
Is that per request or total?
Total, capped at 10,000, and no individual request is higher than 2,000. So an individual request is capped at 2, and an overall request is capped at 10.
How do they decide who?
The select board decides who. What they do is, the town that has a $10,000 cap on all agencies, that is the warrant article is to raise $10,000. After town meeting, then the select board has the list of the agencies that have requested. They make the decision on who's getting what of that. That's one town. Another town has a policy that doesn't have a cap, but doesn't have an overall cap, but it has an individual request cap of $2,000. So like the 4,000 from Seniors Plus and the 49 from Community Concepts, those in that town are capped at $2,000.
I agree with that to a point. I'm just concerned partially that, let's say, Lifeway and Cancer say, well, we only need $750, but if they're gonna give us 2, we're gonna ask for 2.
I don't generally see that happening. With the Cancer Center, this past year in fiscal year '26, they did ask for money, then they pulled their request because they were getting the money from, I can't remember what organization, so they pulled their request from us. The previous year, they did ask for a request, and it was the Cancer Center, the Seniors Plus, and the Community Concepts, and Androscoggin that did get the requested amounts.
We currently don't have an ordinance on that, do we?
No.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with 50,000 cap total.
So how do we go about, if we wanted to, as a group, have that considered by the ORC?
So did you want to answer them? Were
Well,
gonna
you can
answer
do
that?
two ways. You can have a policy, and what we have now is considered a policy.
Yeah.
And we can change our policy, the select board can, or we can draft an ordinance to be considered. Is that how you're gonna answer it?
Yeah. My recommendation would be to have the select board draft a policy, because they can change it as it needs to be changed. If you do an ordinance, it can't be changed unless it goes to a town meeting for a vote. These are things that I feel should be handled in policy by the select board. And I think when you look at these requests, everybody is going to submit a request if they know they can get money. But you have to look at, I believe, who services your town and how much you want to give. And if you give $50,000 to agencies, that's $50,000 that could be used within your town that you're not budgeting because you don't have the money. I do believe capping the amount that goes to each agency. And like Bob mentioned, when I came here, we were over $100,000 to both these together. And it has gone down quite a bit. That's my opinion where it should be. I can see, when agencies like this request for money, they have to also show when they apply for grants that they're getting donations. So I do support, you know, donations of some sort.
So I also think it's important for, there is a lot of health, mental health, older people, it is taking care of our these organizations are helping take care of our community, and I think if we have a policy, maybe we also, like, how, it should be important, like, how many people are they serving in our community, so, because if it's a lot of people, we want to necessarily.
They used to have to provide that information, and it got
It
to
is-
a point where it was the same 4 or 5 agencies, and
Yeah.
they stopped requiring.
Well, it is
correct?
all in it is all in the letters, it'll
And
say
it
how
is,
many.
it is in
You
this
asked for
background
it.
information
Yeah,
that,
it is.
is in your binder. It shows how many residents here they serve.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that in another town, the same amount is being requested by Community Concepts and Senior Plus for that town is in this town. And you can't tell me that there's the same amount of services provided or the same amount of people, but that seems to be a common amount that they're asking for.
Well, I noticed with Community Concepts, it seemed like maybe Oxford was way lower than Beckles or something
We
struck
were the
me.
highest.
Yeah,
out
we
of
were
all
the highest,
towns
so
that
I wasn't
provided-
sure
And
provided
this-
why.
Quite a bit, I
Yeah.
mean, by over, I think, $1,500.
And this is the same amount that they've asked for the last 3 years that I've been here.
And I know we have to go by with what the agencies or whatever submit, but I know some of them don't submit all of the information on their request.
You know, we,
Because 2 years ago, we did a request for a certain amount of money, and they had $120,000, and didn't put it in their request.
and
About
there's
220,000.
no way for us to actually know either if they're submitting all of their information. I mean, when they send a lot of information and it's on several sheets.
I'd like to see the town have a policy on this, but, I mean, I'm just one.
I'd like,
No, I
I mean,
agree.
I like, personally, I'd like a total and an individual. Just because the total, it seems to me you have to have a total, because, I mean, even if you cap it at 2,000 apiece, there's thousands of these organizations, and they're all doing great things, and they're all people that we wanna support, but we do have to say no at a certain point, and that, to me, is why having a total is important. And then if you wanted to do it individually, I guess you could further say, 2 or 3 or whatever a piece, but to me, I agree, I think we need a total. And that also takes a little bit off of us, because I mean, we're all human beings, and most of us don't wanna say no to any organizations that are doing this kind of thing, but we do at some point have to say no to them. So, to me, I think a policy would accomplish a lot of that.
I also, just building off of that real quick, I also think we need a more clear process so we're gathering comparative information from these groups. And this, we have some of that here where we can compare some, but when we don't have a super clear threshold of like, why are we even giving funding to one group over another? And then being able to have really clear information of how those groups compare in that category, it makes decision-making here really difficult, because one of the things I do see as a real benefit to funding these organizations is that funding some of these public health organizations can help us to decrease costs in some of our emergency services areas. There's a real savings opportunity here with funding groups that specialize in some of this work. But we're kind of having to read between the lines to get the information that we need to make those informed decisions.
Well, I think that's the pattern that I've actually seen for the past 20, 25 years. There's no, I would have to say there's no clear way to get what you want, because they're going to give you what they want. They're gonna think they've provided, everything to get, what they're asking for.
Could we make a form, like a submission form? Wouldn't necessarily solve things for this year, but for the future.
I think your letter that you used to send did have.
Well, I put a copy of the letter in the packet as well.
But the other part of that is, before we go to that, I'm thinking like 50K max at the top end. I wouldn't wanna see us do a 75 cap or
Are
something.
you talking about both of these budgets combined, or are you talking about just the?
No, 50,000 tops.
Yeah, but before you can do any of this, you have to have
You
a
have to-
policy.
you have
You've
to have
gotta
a
have that
policy.
set down, so I don't know how we're gonna do this, but if you need a request from the budget committee or something to request that the select board make a policy, then I'd put that for a motion. I mean, is that what we're gonna have to do?
Well, that could be a recommendation
I
to
think
the
that's
select
a
board.
recommendation. I've heard you, I think we've heard pretty clearly that it seems like
Well, I think
it's a
there's another,
consensus to have a policy, and that can go on to the select board to create a policy before we get to this situation again next year.
well, I think there's another part to that, phase rate. We're all, Sharon's letter is good. It goes out, it says this is what you want. It's real simple. If it asks for 8 things and you're supplying 7 of them, it's kicked out. It's not hard. If you're asking for money, answer the questions, supply the proper stuff. If you can't, sorry, it's like a bidding process, like anything else. To get submitted, you gotta have the right answers, like looking for a truck. You're asking for a dually and they're sending you pricing on single, it's not gonna work.
I think it was 2 years ago, it was my first budget season. I think we tried to like tighten things up, and then we went to town meeting, and the town changed a lot of, like, they wanted to give to some of the organizations that we had cut out. Do you remember that?
I think there was just one, and it was Project Graduation,
I think that
$1,000.
was graduation.
That'll always happen.
Remember, like,
Yeah.
we
It was either that
decided
or the
not to.
fifth graders.
Or
Yeah, it was one of those
we had
that they
decided
didn't-
not to give to BAM, and they wanted to give to BAM, and there were some, it seemed like the town wanted to be actually more generous than we were, so I just tossed that out there, is that, I was surprised,
So as far as the local funding, where most of this money is designated, is there anything that needs to be changed for that?
Well, as an example, the project graduation, I don't believe they can respond to the request of a letter like that, and that's
Yeah.
not a group that I would feel should have that type of request sent to them. The first year I was here, there was a request for the 5th graders, and then this current year, they didn't send one. But I think you have to look at each request.
Right, I
It's
mean,
not.
I'm not specifying on the letter itself, but just the figure is my concern. Library keeps going up and food pantry come down.
Well, my recommendation on any of these is to hold them to current funding, is not to increase them from last year.
Right.
That's a way to start, anyway, but that's what I would do. I would eliminate any of the ones you applied this year on the bottom section that haven't applied before. And then the others, I would cap them. And I wouldn't support the 4 or the 4,900. I would decide on a cap amount for that. That way you're gonna reduce that line, that section. On the top, I would keep them all so that their request is capped at current years. And if you want to lower it, you can do that too, but I would at least cap it for increases. If you keep going up every year on donations, you're going to be right back where you've been before. And
So I guess we're asking the select board to do something.
they're going to,
Make a
yes,
policy.
they will, that's your recommendation, and they'll look at putting a policy together.
So our plan would be to kind of deal with what we have in front of us for this
Yes.
year,
Yeah.
with what we have, and then make a more comprehensive plan for the future.
If we go with what they're asking currently, we're at 70, almost 74. If you,
Yeah, but Sharon is saying just
right,
eliminate the 4 down below, 4 or 5 down below, the new ones, and keep the ones up above, at 25, 26
Yes,
budget.
that's what I
Yeah,
said.
that's a good idea.
And, again, you can have time to think about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I did recommend that we wait and do all of the approvals on the last meeting. That's how I would like to do it. I don't know what
We
you.
did approve.
And we did approve
We did
everything,
approve,
yeah.
except for the 1,200,
Except for-
which
Yeah,
we can revisit at the end.
okay. So I think we have a clear understanding of what we're gonna do with those 2 sections.
But, I mean, I guess, have we read through the new agencies, have we really looked through and discussed them to like, just, it seems a little unfair to just note because you didn't apply in the past, like, if they did answer everything on the letter, then I think we should decide which are most important.
So those
To our
individuals
community.
didn't send any requests with all that information because it's the first time they've asked for that money.
But then you sent them the letter and they did.
No, because I got them in so late to
I
begin
thought
with.
they had information, I thought I read about what Lifelight was requesting and.
Yes, but they were not sent a letter. So if you wanna read, cause we're gonna revisit this again, for approval or not approval, read what you have in your packet, and if there's enough or not enough information. I mean, I don't wanna come off at saying this the wrong way, but how much time do you wanna spend on asking people to give you information? They should know. All of these organizations know what other towns expect, whether it's Bethel or another town. And every time you give them money one year, they're gonna come back the next year. So, I personally am not I'm on the budget committee in Oxford, and I can tell you right now, no one will get over $2,000 there. And half of these that sent requests in, over half, are not going to get any recommendation. It all depends what you wanna spend your money on. Do you wanna spend $100,000 on social service agencies? That is, that's an amount of money on your taxes. So,
I mean,
But
I
you-
think like last week you said food pantry is high, but that help, because the general assistance is low, that's.
it
but
helps
I-
offset.
I would still, I would hate to cap the library forever at that number, because a lot of towns have public libraries.
I'm
and we
not
just-
talking about the top, I'm
Okay,
talking
okay.
about the bottom and capping.
Okay.
So those wouldn't be capped at the 2, but the bottom are the agencies, the outside agencies. Those are the ones that are capped in an individual amount or an overall amount. But I can tell you towns that give no money at all to the Historical Society, generally libraries are given money. Some towns, they own their library, so they have their own budget for the library. We don't, the library isn't a town library, but they do ask for funding, like where I live, they ask for funding. And they do provide a lot of information, but I'd still cap them at last year's donation. We all have to look at what we're asking. We can't fund everything, unless you don't care what your taxes are going to go up,
I do think that it's, in the scope of the size of our overall town budget, this is not a huge amount of money. I do think it's really important for us to get on the same page, create policy, figure out what we want to do for HAT, figure out how we want to handle local organizations versus agencies. I think that all of that is a really good decision to make. And for this year, I support the idea of, we need a plan to move forward. We might not be able to deeply consider every single I think there are some really good requests in here that could be really beneficial to support. But if we are really concerned about raising this number this year without a clear policy and how we're making decisions, I think it would be okay for us to kind of be more careful this year in awarding more funding until we have a clear policy that says why we're awarding those funds.
So Michelle, we could put this as an agenda item for the board to, on a future agenda, to look at a policy. I can get some simple policies for you. And then when we revisit this at the end, you can decide what you want to fund and what you don't want to fund. Does that sound fair and accurate?
Really good.
Okay.
As far as the new ones on the bottom, the 5 on the bottom, 2 of those have been in the past. It's just that they didn't appear last year.
Well, the cancer fund is really in the same category as Seniors Plus Community Concepts along with Andwell. So I look at those 4
Right.
as the same. Main Public, I don't look the same way, and Lifelight, I also
Right.
don't look the
No,
same
I
way.
was only pointing out the Cancer Center
Yeah.
and the Edwell.
Yeah.
Do you recall the amount that the Cancer Center
I think it was
requested
500.
and then pulled?
I think it was
500.
500, and I can't remember, it should be in my budget book from last year, why they pulled it and who was good. I almost think it was the county, but then I thought, no, the county's not gonna give them money. But I was thinking it was the county that ended up giving them money. But now this year, the county has a policy on nonprofits, so.
What's their policy?
Unless it benefits the county in its entirety, they don't accept a request.
So, I'd like to go over the fire department budget. If you're okay with that. And that is. So that is in front, 2 in front of where we're looking at it. So it's zoned to that, it says fire. So Chief Joundry and I sat down, the same as all department heads, they come in with their proposed budget. They go over everything, line item, and they talk about increases, decreases, what they're going to do, not going to do in this budget. The first line, those, the chief gives me an amount of money that he's requesting to cover the officer stipends, the chief stipends, the assistant chief, captain, first lieutenant, second lieutenant. All of these stipend positions were approved for a 3% increase. I list that on the bottom to show the categories. And so he tells me the amount of money, well, for the stipends, it shows down on the bottom what their current stipend is and what they'll go in as. So that's pretty set. So that stipend increase is from, you can see it's a 3% increase. So when you take the total of all the individuals getting a stipend at 3%, that's where all of their stipends end up, is the 21,774. The next line is the firefighter payroll. And what Mike does is he estimates, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, he estimates what he needs for firemen, and he looks at whether they are a firefighter 1, 2, or 3, estimates the wage for them, and then it's 55, and ends up being $55,000 is what he gave me. The third line is the personnel expenses. That covers the chief's cell phone reimbursement, trainings, mileage, memberships, Western Maine is a $40 membership. Western Maine Firefighters Association, Northern Oxford Mutual Aid, 100, and that has an increase of 500 in it. Then there are the medical expenses, which is the BLS requirements. That is for physicals for 22 firefighters. That will stay the same. Telephone and internet. So current year, we changed from, we had 3 different phone and internet lines. They were all different for all our departments. We've now changed everything over to First Light for internet and for phones and faxes. And that process took a lot longer to take place, to get onto First Light for all of them, and to change all of the phone internet lines from where it was. So the bill that we just got from March looks like it's going to be going forward what we're gonna pay each month for those 3. So Stephanie and I have actually spent quite a bit of time trying to get the phone and internet charges. Some departments, as we explained before when we did this process, some departments would increase, some would decrease, and that would be based on their current hookup. As an example, Spectrum was the internet provider. No, not the internet, it was the phone provider.
Spectrum was internet for fire.
Fire and rescue. We were paying $100 a month for just those 2. Not everyone was connected on the server the same way, so all of that had to be changed. During the process of this, we ended up having to pay a lot of maintenance fees that we weren't expecting to pay to get some of these things done, but that has all gone through now. So right now, this is what we're looking at for phone and internet, and we are still looking at one line in the fire department that may not quite be accurate, but we think we can say that 1,900 is what we need for the phone and internet lines for the fire department. Supplies will stay the same at 500. Mike estimated to 2,500. This is the diesel for engine 1, 2, 3 tanker, the gas utility for the forestry 1 and 2, the old Mack pumper, the ATV snow blower, $3 a gallon for gas and diesel, and that's 2,500. Equipment purchases will cover the replacement equipment, hoses, nozzles, helmets, boots, turnout gear, etc. That's $15,000. That is annual equipment purchases every year. Then we have the equipment repair. That will stay the same at $10,000. The vehicle maintenance stays the same. The utilities, the hydrants, we do have, based on the quarterly, a little bit less in that. You may remember that the water in 25 and 26, there was a 25% increase in January of each year. So we didn't really know what we were looking at for those quarterly amounts, and believe now that they're stable, so this is where we're budgeting from that. The dry hydrant cistern staying at 2,000. The fire prevention week staying at 850. Emergency relief, which is the fire assistance for fire victims, staying at 1,000. Slight increase of 1,557. Mike, I'm sure, can answer any questions that you might have.
So the one that went up 25%, Rob, that includes our trainings. That line years ago used to be $5,000 before COVID. During COVID, you couldn't get any training done, obviously. After COVID, Maine Fire Service Institute thought that they were gonna get away with just doing everything online. And they have discovered that that does not work. So classes are starting to be made available again now to get back into the old training routines that we used to do. You can't train a firefighter on a computer, it doesn't work. One, guys aren't gonna sit there and look at a computer screen for fake the real thing.
Mm.
So we're trying to creep back up to get more trainings again like we used to.
What's the periodicity on some of the hoses and nozzles and stuff like that, or is there a periodicity?
So hoses, we have to do hose testing by law every year, and as long as it passes to manufacturer's specs. We have hose, believe it or not, from the early sixties, it still passes. We have hoses from 2020 that burst every time we test them. So they're junk, so just quality, what that amounts to. You can take a brand new hose and it can get dragged over a piece of glass or a nail or something, or a car run over it, and it's junk. So it's kind of like the weather. Turnout gear, same thing, we have, it all depends on the firefighters' level of training, what they can do. Some guys can wear the same gear for 15 years with no issues. Get some aggressive guys that go inside a burning building, they can ruin a step in no time. So that's clear as mud.
And that would what, replace one set
Yeah, right now,
at the current cost?
turnout gear that still has PFAS in it is about $3,300 as of last week.
I was gonna say, there's gotta be a periodicity on that.
And that's just coat and pants, when I say turnout gear, that's not helmets, that's not boots, that's just coat and pants. The hoods that we wear under our helmets, used to be able to buy those for $30-some a piece. Those now by law have to be manufactured PFAS-free, those are now $185 a piece, minimum. PFAS-free turnout gear, the vendors are all saying is gonna start roughly around $5,000 for a coat and pant. Like I say, that doesn't include boots or anything like that, gloves. Gloves now are pushing $130 to $200 a pair, depending on what you get. You'll be very happy, I just bought a bunch of out of stock, not out of stock, but discontinued stuff for less than $100 a pair. Cleaned out 2 different vendors. Same thing with a glove, I mean, some guys can wear a pair of gloves for 2 years, other guys can ruin one the first time they go to a call. You know, if you get poked with something, ripped on something, burnt up. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often, but practice, well, you get fuel on it. They're all trained to not walk in diesel fuel and stuff, but one thing with gear is if your pants get in the fuel this far, within about 30 seconds, it'll wick it all the way to your knees. So they are trained to stay out of fuel at any and all costs. We have other gear to use in those situations, but sometimes it does happen.
So,
I was just gonna ask, is there a new regulation around PFAS and gear coming into?
It's coming, I mean, to make Sarah happy, if everyone had that way, it would already be in place. But because it is so cost prohibitive, and the manufacturers haven't even figured out how to make a lot of this stuff PFAS free yet, to meet all the standards, so it's been slow coming. I think last year or 2 years ago, I warned the board that if that gets stamped, hang on, because hopefully they give us years to make that hurdle, because if they pass a law through OSHA or through the state saying by 2030, everything has to be PFAS free, you can do the math with a couple dozen firefighters, what that's gonna cost.
And there's no kind of grants to support the increased costs?
And there are grants. Most grants don't go to, you know, the $50,000 to $100,000 range. Some of the bigger ones do. Those are very hard to get. And those are, like the FEMA fire grants have steered towards like call volume qualifications. So a little town like, I'm not gonna pick on one of the small neighbors up the road, but they're not gonna stand as good of a chance getting new turnout gear or new SCBA's and stuff as Boston. They have kind of figured out that some of these small departments are getting the Cadillacs that they don't necessarily need, where other departments that are truly wearing their gear out aren't getting the funding. You'll also be happy to know we spent a bunch of money bought new air packs 2 or 3 years ago for about $5,000 a piece. The vendor just told me last week when he was talking about turnout gear, the new NFPA 2025 version that's out now is just shy of $10,000 a piece. So they've doubled in 5 years. Just like the fire truck. I mean, everything's just going crazy. A year ago, not that this amounts to anything, but Congress in DC had fire truck manufacturers testifying because they were holding the market hostage on, there's, half a dozen vendors that are driving these costs. Of course, that went nowhere because somebody thought it paid off. Everything is out of control, so we're doing the best we can. I mean, Andy works for the fire marshal's office. I'm sure he can elaborate on departments all over the state that are in a lot worse shape than we are when it comes to funding and gear, so we don't have any complaints, but stuff is just out of control everywhere.
So I just wanted to point out, if you flip your sheet, your budget sheet for fire, there's a revenue sheet behind it. So, Stephanie was good enough to put this together, and she did a pretty good job. You'll find this behind all departments that take revenue in, and it lists all the departments, but we had one of these put behind every department and also in the revenue section in the back. So as an example, fire is listed right on the top. Oxford County, this year, gave us $45,000. I requested in September. I had Chief Jodry and Hanscom put together a 3-year average of the fire calls and the rescue calls to the unorganized territories. And what I did was I requested $45,000 because the average was 45 fire calls, and I requested $1,000 a call, and they paid it. This is more than they have given us in the past years, so I was pretty pleased with that. When we get to rescue, I didn't get what we requested, but we got double, a little over double what I requested. And they'll consider more next year when we send it in, because it was 100% increase is what I requested. I knew they wouldn't give me that anyway, but, so fire, this is the revenue that fire brings in, and you can see what all the other departments bring in as far as revenue goes, so I wanted to point that out.
In Oxford County in the past, conveniently always forgets Riley and Grafton. They always want to focus on Albany and Mason, and we have to remind them that there are houses in Riley and a lot of stuff happening in Grafton.
Yeah,
Who's
and
Riley?
Upper Sunday River Valley.
Oh, okay.
so Mike included all of that in his 3-year, and then I had a conversation with the county on providing, funding for everything, so that this way you can at least see what departments do bring in for revenue.
Is this 2026 revenue as of today, or is that anticipated?
No, we received that a few weeks ago. I told the board at the last board meeting in the manager's report that I had just received that in March, and it's on the agenda this week to accept that $45,000, the 20 from rescue, and there was 4,000 from Gilead and 250 from Upton. So those were received in the fiscal year 26 budget.
And what about the other revenue items?
It's as of current.
It's as of current.
Okay.
Yes.
So there could be more
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is just as of,
today-ish.
yes, yeah. So as we get to each of those departments, so we could explain how the revenue comes in. Some is weekly, some is monthly, but I don't anticipate any more than that 45 there. Are there any other questions with fire? If not, we could take care of rescue if it's 10 after 7, we started at 5:30. Are you receptive to doing rescue? We could do that and get done that by 7:30.
Do we need to stand up? You all good to go up for one more?
Yep.
Yeah.
One department?
Okay.
All right.
So Dave is here, and Dave, I met with Dave, we went over, and let me point out too, if you look behind the first 2 pages, which are the budget, it does have the revenue sheet, and it does talk about all the revenues that we've received, the total amount in fiscal year '25, and to date what we've received in 2026 for revenue. Then, there are several pages. I included the budget that Dave gave me in detail and summary that we reviewed. And I'd like to point out what an exceptional job he does at giving me a budget.
Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
Uh-oh, Mike.
I did not include yours, Mike.
Oh, good. The only thing I'm exceptional at is telling you what I'm
Is
thinking.
Scott still here?
Yeah. Overtime wages, that is 2318. That is paid on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day, and that's a 3% increase from last year. Ambulance attendant wages, various rates, and you can see those at the end of my spreadsheet. These were never provided before, but I do provide those rates so that you can see what the various attendants make. And again, the stipends was 3% increase. The positions, which is they're classified as explorers, juniors, EMT, AEMT, paramedics, and drivers. They all received a 3% increase plus an adjustment of 45 cents an hour in addition to that to compensate for the minimum wage that went up with the state. Ambulance attendants wages, 42,280, up 4.8% from last year. Ambulance director stipend, 3% increase, and then the next line is all of the officer stipends, and that is the 3% increase. Paramedic intermediate per diem wages, that has an increase of 11,000. Those individuals work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 11,467 increase. The next line is the ambulance on-call wages. That's the on-call night stipend. That it was increased last year to be consistent and comparable to other rescue services that were, we were losing a lot of people that were going to other rescues departments because they were making more money to go to other rescue departments close by instead of working here. So I hope that that has helped David's crew. Ambulance junior program, the minimum wage is paid for that, which is $15.10. The program decreased due to SAD 44 contributing to the funding, and so that is staying at $5,000. The medical director increased 3% to $13.13. But that may have.
So last year, it was voted to give them the increase, but the budgeted amount didn't increase, so we had to make an adjustment this year.
Okay. The personnel expenses, that has a $2,700 increase. That's for the background checks, selim and reimbursement, trainings, mileage, cards. I'm not sure what the cards is.
CPR first aid.
I'll add that. And then additional for AEMT classes for 6 staff and a class for 1 medic. So that's why you see the increase in that line. Medical expenses, 4,000 stays the same. Support services stays the same, 2,800. The contracted services has increased from 11,000 to 18,000. That's for the medical billing services that does our ambulance service. That's the fee that they're increasing to, right?
So this is because we've seen an increase in call volume, which I think you might have
So the call volume also increases what they charge.
So if medical reimbursement is filling out more calls, they're bringing in more revenue, but we have to pay them more because they're bringing in more revenue,
Percentage, yeah.
basically. It's based on a percentage of revenue.
Telephone, internet, and fax, 3,100, so that has increased. What we had to do with some of the departments, and I know rescue was one of them, is their some are under our servers. And you'll see when we get to administration, we have a much higher cost here because some of the departments can't be on their own server. I don't understand how that all works, but they're tied into ours. Overall, we are, for all phone, internet, and fax, we're paying less by combining all two with First Light. It's just some departments are up, some go down based on it, because it's more broken down now. Supplies stay the same at $27,005. The uniform line stays the same at 4. The gas and diesel stays the same at 9. Same as equipment purchases at $10,002. There is a $3,800 increase in equipment repair. Dave might want to talk about that, to explain some of that.
Sure, so, on a lot of our big expensive stuff, like a cardiac monitor, or a Lucas device, or the cots, or the system that the cot locks into in the ambulance, there are service agreements. In this particular case, we had the opportunity 3 or 4 years ago to include the 4-year service plan in the cost of the device. That's coming to the end of its life, so in order to protect the equipment, we need to start paying annually for that service agreement, basically.
Vehicle maintenance stays the same. That covers the cost of the 2 ambulances. They are 2017 and 19, and all the unexpected maintenance and the regular maintenance. As you can see, both trucks are aging. Tires and miscellaneous repairs. We will go over the purchasing of the new ones in the capital budget. State licensing fee, $595. So overall, the rescue budget is, increasing by $34,977. If you look at the second page, there is a breakdown showing what the individual officers' stipends are. I list them separately, that way you can see what we pay the stipends. And then I also list the wage that the drivers, EMTs, the AEMTs, paramedics, and on-call night stipends, what their wages going to be in fiscal year '27. And then I list the staffing. In the first column, that was as of 3/1/26. I don't know if we need to make a couple of adjustments on that, but if we do, we will have that next meeting for you. The call volumes is interesting. We started listing that in the budget every year, so you can see the number of calls that the rescue unit here goes on every year. And the 2 that we updated, because for the fiscal year '25, we didn't have that number at that time. We only had an estimated number based on the time we did the budget. So I updated those with Dave this week. So you can see that in fiscal year '24 to '5, it increased from 507 to 604 calls. And so far, as of March 12th for this fiscal year, they have done 451 calls. So that's a good tracking measure, and we'll continue to do that every year. And then, revenues, see attached. So if we go to the second section, where the revenues are, you'll see that, and these are to date, in the last column. It's the ambulance service fees, from Oxford County, that's the $20,000 donation that we received last week. That is for the calls that, Rescue has made to the unorganized territories. That is, I asked actually for 63,000, because it was based on an average of 63 calls at $1,000 a call. And I was told that the $1,000 a call, per call, was realistic. However, they couldn't jump from, the previous donation was less than $10,000. And you'll notice that there's no donation listed in fiscal year '25. That's because in fiscal year '24, they paid us twice. And we found that out to start looking at when, Michelle, I think, was at that same county meeting that we went to, when their finance people were there, because they were overdrawn on some of their budgets. And it was because we had been paid twice in that year. So they didn't pay us in '25 because we had got 2 payments in '24. But we just got the $20,000, so that's good. The next line is the ambulance service fees from the town of Gilead and Upton. That was $4,250. We did receive that in fiscal year '25 and in '26. The next is a big amount. This is the ambulance revenue. So we bill for ambulance. We, as Dave was just talking, we have the rescue billing company, and they bill. In fiscal year '25, we took in $292,593 from billing out rescue services through medical reimbursement services. And so far, we have taken in $170,909. So we still have the rest of March, April, May, and June that number will end up growing. So that's a good amount of revenue that we take in from the rescue department. Then the other one is just listed as ambulance donations. So we have this year received $100 for an ambulance donation. So far this year, just since July 1st, we've taken in over $195,000 in revenue from rescue. Any questions of Dave?
So we pay for the training if they wanna go from EMT to AEMT.
Yes.
Do we require that they stay with us for a certain amount of time afterwards, or reimburse us if they were to, get the training and then use said training to get a better paid job elsewhere?
So many years ago, we were advised not to have contractual agreements with people. But just as a side note, when you say we pay for the training, like an AEMT class is $2,800 to $3,000. We're looking at paying a portion of the training. We're not paying the total amount. A paramedic class is $10,000 a person. We're looking at paying $2,000 out of that $10,000 to hopefully convince the person to continue to do hours here at a service that doesn't pay them full-time to work there. Like, it's a part-time job for everybody that works there. So we're trying to entice them, hey, we're willing to help pay for some of your training if you'll continue to do hours here after you get your higher level certification.
That answer? Yes.
So basically what you said, there's no requirement for them to stay after they get their education.
This is true.
You can't legally
The
require
folks-
them to stay, even if that's why
They were doing that with the police department years ago.
they can't require the police department either to stay.
They have a buyout is what they do, and they still do it with the academy.
It's a 5-year buyout with
Yeah.
the police, which is a little bit different.
Right,
than
it's a
this.
full-time job
Yeah.
too, usually, as opposed to Dave's thing.
The flip side of that is these are people that have worked at Bethel for a while that want to take this advanced class. It's going to better your service to the community. But when we hire a person part-time that works at PACE, Medicare, United, wherever, that already has their paramedic certification, you're getting the benefit of the training that they already have when they come here to work. So, where I don't wanna compare it directly to any other departments, like, has been suggested, but where if in the past you might have paid somebody to go to an academy to get their training so that they could then be a full-time police officer or firefighter or whatever, and they get that certification and then they go somewhere else. That's not the situation here, where the EMS and fire services in small towns like this rely on being able to convince people who are working full-time somewhere else to come here, because this is not a full-time benefited position.
Other questions for Dave?
I have one.
Sure.
As far as the ambulance service fees that are donated by Gilead Upton, how are those determined? Is it by calls?
So Upton is honestly completely, as far as I know, them saying, hey, we know once in a while you come here, here's $250. Gilead has been a request situation in the past. You would have to decide what you wanted to ask them to go up to. We've had a little bit of conversation about what that might look like.
And why are those the only two other towns that donate?
Well, Mason, Riley, Albany are all covered by the county agreement, so if you wanna, I'm not saying that we should do this, but if you wanted to say cover Greenwood, then I would anticipate you'd need to come up with a number of what you wanted Greenwood to pay, because they're not covered under the county, but unorganized
We
territories.
need to do this with the police department too.
It's the unorganized territories that we get from the county.
Yeah.
The others, those are towns, and they've basically sent that same amount that I've seen for the past several years.
And Upton, like, the reason that we don't push Upton for money is because they're in a precarious position where they live in the state of Maine. The closest service to them is in New Hampshire. Maine EMS and New Hampshire EMS don't necessarily get along. So if you are going to be the primary coverage for a entity in Maine, and you want to bring a patient to a Maine hospital or a New Hampshire hospital, you have to be licensed through Maine EMS. The service that's closest to them is not a huge service, so they don't want to have to license in both New Hampshire and in Maine. When we get called to Upton, it's because the New Hampshire service gets to the scene, the patient wants to come to a hospital in Maine. Because the town is physically located in Maine, they're not allowed to bring that patient to a Maine hospital unless they are licensed in Maine. We can go there and bring them to a Maine hospital. We're a Maine-based EMS service, so we can go there and bring them to a New Hampshire-based hospital. But if you're a New Hampshire-based EMS service, servicing as a primary coverage in Maine, you can't then bring the patient to a Maine hospital.
So Upton automatically calls you.
So what happens is the New Hampshire service gets on scene and goes, oh my gosh, this patient wants to go to Rumford Hospital. We can't transport to Rumford Hospital.
So they call you.
They call us.
Normally they go to Berlin or Colton.
And you said that the state covers for the townships?
Yes. No, not the state, the county.
Oh, okay, okay.
The county.
That's the
The state
20,000.
through the county.
Well,
Yeah.
right.
You see the unorganized territories, yeah. So just to follow up on that, so you're not the primary service for Upton, only if they want a Maine-based, does Medicare play a role?
No,
At all?
well, sort of. So the agreement is Bethel will be the primary main ambulance service for the Route 26 corridor of Upton. If it's out on East Bee Hill, then Medicare is the
Is that the
primary.
other side?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great.
It's a mess, but
No,
luckily it's a
helps
very
to
small
understand.
town and we don't go there very much.
And with Gilead, are you the primary service?
Yes.
So, okay, so that's why it would be a different amount.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, we're primary for Mason and half of Albany. and-
Half of Albany, right? And
What about,
Riley,
what about your rate?
and area is covered by Medicare unless you're talking about services at Sunday River during ski hours, in which case it's base.
Or Grafton is us, right?
In Grafton, it's us. In Riley, it's us.
What's,
If anybody wants to
Sorry, I asked.
take a hand at handling it.
is Gilead's call volume increasing?
Oh my gosh, they're kind of like, you're in emergency services, you understand, like, they might have 40 calls this
They're-
year and
they're hanging.
10 next year. Like,
Do you know, or just sharing, do you guys have an estimate on what that 195 might eventually turn into? Close to the 300,000 or?
Oh, I would anticipate, based on the tracking of what we have in so far, we're looking at getting that same amount. The rates did increase a little bit, and the call volume has also increased, so I would anticipate hitting that.
What is the success rate on the collections now?
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
So, it's not bad. We keep track of that here. Excuse me, after 3 months, they send to collections, to the Thomas Agency. So everything that is not collected after the 3 months, then it goes out to collections. And then they have to pay, whoever owes the bill has to pay the Thomas Agency. But there's a pretty good, I don't know the percentage, pretty good collection rate up until the 3 months. And then we will get a list, probably maybe 20 accounts that haven't been paid. And those same accounts, if they haven't been paid, would show up again on the next collection list. But probably about 20 calls every 3 months, somewhere's around $20,000 to $30,000 maybe. That's off the top of my head.
So overall, it's pretty good then.
I think it's a pretty good collection rate, yes.
Well, we're still not bad, it's still only 350,000 top rate. Still pretty good.
And is the call rate increasing just because population is growing, or do you?
We saw a huge increase when COVID kind of came in, and then, like, right now, I can't really explain why we're seeing the call volume keep going up. I anticipated when COVID started to settle down that our call volume would drop off, and we hit 604 last year. It's like, if I could predict it, it would be great.
It's just like, is there a sense of, well, I don't know, it's probably not time to talk about it, but.
Do we staff just one ambulance at a time?
Yes. Most of the time.
Okay.
So, say on festivity day, like the Bethel festivity day, I try to make sure we have a second crew available, just because we know that there's gonna be a huge population here. Or if we know that there's a high school football game going on, we try to make sure that we have extra people around to know that if we need to transport from there. But the normal staffing is 2 people, which covers 1 truck.
Any other questions? So, we'll probably call it for tonight. The next meeting is next Monday. You have all the information in your binder. We'll do recreation, solid waste, public works department, and the employee benefits. And I'll take a look at that and may add one from the 330 list to that. And then at that last meeting on the 30th, what we'll do is we'll plan to do an overview if anyone has additional information. And then we can vote on all of the budgets. Any questions? I will get you the fiscal year '25, actual year to date, and the fiscal year '26, actual as of next Monday, so that it will be current. And it shows that date right on the pre-printed report from our software program.
Well, if there's no further business to come before us,
I make a motion that we adjourn.
second. You guys all good, everybody in favor?